Hello, you over 3,000 amazing legends and the 82.5% that have yet to subscribe. So in this video, we're going to be jumping into the Idoneth Deepkin, the probably craziest Aquaman elves you'll ever see. So yeah, we're jumping into the Deepkin. If you don't know what the Deepkin are, they are pretty much an elf faction in Age of Sigmar that are very much heavily inspired by things like Aquaman and the sea and all manner of weird beasties. So basically they ran away from Teclis, hidden under the water, and kind of evolved down there. So their cavalry are like eels. They have a giant turtle, and they ride into battle on a mystical, magical wave of magic water, basically. Cool faction. I'd be really interested to see what else they do with it. They're very much an Age of Sigmar faction. They have that Age of Sigmar look to them. They're very much like high fantasy, which is kind of cool. But I would really interested to see where the studio takes them next. I think the faction needs, for me, a non-elf heavy armored unit that are basically giant crabmen. That would just be cool. And a giant sea monster like a kraken or a giant squid or something along those lines. There was a game called Wrath of Kings by Cool Mini or Not that had a seafaring faction, and they had like giant squids and cavalry and crabmen and stuff like that. And I think it would be just a cool concept to have them fighting alongside the elves, because they do live in this underwater realm, so there's obviously going to be more than just the elves under the water, so that would be kind of nice. So let's jump into the faction pack. So they're battle formations, which is not what we want. It's not what we want at all. Why are we not going up? It'd help if we actually were on the correct page. So they're battle traits. So they've got a couple of battle traits, and they haven't really changed that much since 3rd edition, to be completely fair. So you've got once per battle army deployment phase. So you can pick a friendly regiment led by an Idoneth Deepkin hero. No units in this regiment can already have been deployed. Set up those units in reserve, traveling through the Ether Sea. They have now been deployed. So you've got a deep strike mechanic with this army, which is kind of cool. And then in your movement phase, you can deploy said units. So you can pick an Idoneth Deepkin unit that is traveling in the Ether Sea to use this ability. So you don't have to bring them all on. You can bring a unit at a time if you want. Set that unit up on the battlefield, wholly within 9 inches of a table edge and 9 inches from all enemy models. Pretty cool. This used to be a thing done by one of the heroes, the one with the pointy finger. I'll point him out when we get to his war scroll, but he was the one that used to be able to do this. So you've obviously got Tides of Death, which has not changed at all, really. So you've got a different effect applies to friendly Idoneth Deepkin units for each battle round, as shown below. For the 5th battle round onwards, repeat the sequence starting with low tide. So in battle round 1, you're in low tide. So for the rest of the battle round, which is your turn and your opponent's turn, subtract 1 from hit rolls from shooting attacks that target this unit, and then subtract 1 from hit rolls that from combat attacks that target this unit if they did not use any charge abilities this turn. So -1 to hit in shooting and combat is pretty good. So it's kind of a defensive thing. So it's kind of nice. That is a bit of a change, because I do believe in 3rd edition that was you were treated as being in cover, so you got +1 to your save. Obviously cover's changed now, so it's kind of the same thing. You're still -1 to hit, so that's not too bad. And then battle round 2 is Flood the Tide. For the rest of the battle round, this unit can use run abilities and shoot and or charge abilities later this turn. Turn 2, run and charge, super strong. Really, really good, and it only gets stronger. And then obviously round 3, for the rest of the battle round, this unit always strikes first. So this is kind of where you're ramping up now. So you're getting a running charge, getting into combat, and then round 3, no matter what, even if you get doubled, you are still fighting first. Super, super strong. And then battle round 4, for the rest of the battle round, this unit can use a retreat ability and still shoot and or charge abilities later this turn. In addition, for the rest of the battle round, no mortal damage is inflicted on this unit by retreat abilities. So you can retreat and still shoot and then charge. So you kind of hit on turn 1 and 2, and in turn 3 and 4, turn 2 and 3, and then in turn 4, you run away, you can shoot and then recharge if you really need to. So really, really quite a nice set of abilities there. Next up, we have battle formations. So the battle formations, as per usual, are the most important rules in the faction pack because it will dictate how you build your army. So you've got 4 as normal. You've got the Namarati Corps, so you can use run and you can reroll run rolls and charge rolls for friendly Namarti units while they're wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Achillean unit. Now, Namarti units are your thralls. They're your reavers, the ones with the bows and the ones with the big pole arms. And then your Achillean units are like your heroes and your cavalry units. Okay, so there's like a hierarchy in the army. So re-rolling runs and charges is pretty good for your Namarti. Now the question is, are Namarti any good? Well, we'll check that out later on in the video. But yeah, infantry are not amazingly strong in this edition. Cavalry definitely is, so you're probably going to want to go cavalry heavy. Lots of eels and stuff like that. So we'll see. Next is Achillean Beastmasters. Add 1 hit rolls for combat attacks made with companion weapons by friendly Achillean units. If you're going a lot of eels and turtles, this is obviously going to be the battle formation that you're going to want to take. Or is it? And it's a passive ability, so it's always on, which is really good. And next, Isharan Council. So your Isharan are your casters. All right, just like Lumineth Realm Lords have their casters, Deepkin have theirs, and they're called the Isharan. So add 1 to the casting rolls, Isharan rituals, and lure light rolls for friendly Isharan units while they are within the combat range of an other friendly Isharan unit. That's pretty good. +1 casting is quite nice. There is obviously a caveat to that. It's not just a straight flat +1 to cast, but yeah, it's okay. That can be quite good. And then soul raid ambushes. So pick a friendly. So this is once per turn at the end of your turn. Pick a friendly Idoneth Deepkin infantry or cavalry unit wholly within 3 inches of a terrain feature, probably your shipwrecks. Remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up in reserve, traveling through the aether. This is kind of good because you're going to be able to pick up a unit up the end of your turn and then redeploy it again in the movement phase, so you've got a little bit of movement. Personally, I think it really depends on how you play your army. I quite like that. That's quite cool. For me, though, I would probably go for the Achillean Beastmastery because +1 to hit on those eels and turtles is probably going to be more beneficial than bouncy. So next up, we got hero traits and artifacts of power, and these are for your non-unique heroes. So passive, Ancient Pride. If this unmodified hit roll for a combat attack that targets his unit is a 1 or 3, the attack fails and the attack sequence ends. Basically, it's reworded of you can only be wounded on a 4+. All right, so that's not bad. It could make your Achillean King pretty tanky. Passive, Hunter of the Souls. These units' melee weapons have anti-hero +1 rend. Nice. And then end of any turn, Nightmare's Legacy. Pick a visible enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by an ability used by this unit to be the target. Subtract D6 from its control scores. That's okay. For me, I really like the other two. The always wounded on 4+ is really good. That could be quite strong. And if you're going to be facing up a lot of heroes, if you've got a really busty unit that's going to pump out a lot of damage, giving it anti-hero +1 rend is always quite nice. So you got artifacts of power, relics of the abyss. So you got armor of the Kilathi. Other than the companion's weapon abilities, weapon abilities for attacks that target this unit have no effect. Cool. So other than the champion weapon abilities, companion weapon abilities for attacks that... So basically, if you're getting hit by, say, an Agrodon Lancer unit, which has all of the abilities basically stacked on the rider, none of them will work, but only the companion abilities will work. And very few companion weapons have abilities. That's pretty good. Stack that on top of your Ancient Pride, and your all of your abilities are no longer working, and you can't be wounded on anything but a 4+. That's pretty tasty, especially on something like an Achillean King. That could be quite nice. So once per turn, any movement phase, heal D3 to each friendly Idoneth Deepkin cavalry unit within this unit's combat range. So obviously you're going to put that on a Keeling King, you're going to be surrounded by eels, and you're going to be basically going in as a big sledgehammer, and you're healing D3, which is kind of cool. And then the last one is subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards while they're wholly within 18 inches of this unit. That's really strong. That's really good. It's an 18-inch bubble, -1 cast. It's pretty good. I do like the companion one though, and I do think paired up with the hero trait is actually a really nice combo. Alright, so Deepkin spell lore, Lore of the Deeps. So the first one you got Steeped of the Tide, so pick a friendly Deepkin wizard, pick a visible friendly Deepkin unit wholly within 12, do a casting roll of 2d6 needing 6 or more, remove the target from the battlefield and set it up on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Awesome. You literally have access to a teleport. So good. And it's anywhere on the battlefield as well, which is really, really good. And 9 away from the enemy units. Really, really good. So, and it's an unlimited spell as well, which means that if you need to get a unit and a hero to go and support that unit, you can do both of them with 2 different wizards. Amazeballs. So, your next one, Arcane Curation. So pick a friendly Idoneth Deepkin wizard that casts a spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 12. Do a casting roll of 2d6 needing 6. Subtract 1 from the range characteristics of the target's melee weapons until the start of your next turn. -1 rend is always quite nice. -1 to wound is probably better, but -1 rend is good. So the next one, Pressure of the Deep. Pick a friendly Idoneth Deepkin wizard to cast the spell. Pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches and roll a 2d6. For each model, roll a dice for each model in the target unit, and every 5+, inflict a mortal wound. Pretty standard spell, not bad. It is 18-inch range though, which is pretty decent. Elves do like a good range on their spells. Okay, so let's kick off the War Scrolls with the Eldarion of the Malanath. Basically, the aspect of the storm. So there's 2 versions of this. There's going to be a close combat one, and there's going to be a wizardy one. This is your close combat one. He's a hero, he's a monster, he flies, and he has a ward save of 5+. A 3-up save, he moves 10, 12 health, control of 5. So an amazing model. Absolutely amazing model. Has Spear of the Repressed Fury, so he has 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, -2 damage. Sorry, -2 rend, 2 damage, +1 damage on the charge. Beastie. And then he has a Shoals of Fangs, 6 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage, companion. Pretty decent. So he has passive, so add 1. Yes, add 1 to the wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Idoneth Deepkin units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. +1 to wound, really good. And then once per turn, any charge phase, pick an enemy hero in combat with this unit and then roll a dice. That target has strike last for the rest of the turn. 3+ strike last, so good. I like that. I like that a lot. Obviously, if you fail to roll it, you're going to get, you know, if you come up against a really good hero, you're probably going to get spanked. But yeah, that's pretty nice. And then passive, crushing upon the foe. If this unit can use a charge ability, even if it used a retreat ability in the same turn. In addition, no mortal damage is inflicted to it. So you can charge and you can still retreat and still charge, which is cool. And no mortal damage as well, so it's quite nice. I quite like him. He's pretty decent. He's a nice big hitty monster, and he is a monster. But 3-up save is good. And he does some decent amount of damage, so it's nice to see that he's been given a bit of a glow from since last edition. So next up is the Aspect of the Seas, the other version of this model. So this is the Wizard version, and it is a Wizard 2 or Wizard 3, one or the other. Ward save of 5+. It has a save of 3, move of 10, health of 12, and control of 5. Has a ranged ability with the Blast of the Abyssal Energy with a range of 12. 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 rend, D3 damage. Pretty good. Can't shoot in combat though, which is a bit of a shame. He's got his Trident and his Scepter, which is 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, D3 damage, which is pretty decent. And he's got his Fangs, which is exactly the same as the other one. Now he does a couple of abilities. So he has a passive ability, so you could add 1 to casting rolls for this unit. +1 casting for that guy, amazing. And then in your hero phase, Tsunami of Terror, pick up to 3 different visible enemy units within 12 inches of this unit. Then make a casting roll of 2d6, needing an 8, but obviously needing a 7 because you're going to be +1 to cast. And then subtract 1 from the save rolls for the combat attacks that target those units until the start of your next turn. So you can really sort of time this right with your other units, get -1 save, which is really good because if they pop a all-out defense, it basically just means you're spending a CP for nothing, basically. Because you're going to be -1 to your save, so it doesn't matter about the rend that you're hitting them with, you're just still going to get that involved. So basically they are spending it for nothing. So once per turn, army any charge phase. If this unit has not charged this turn, pick an enemy unit in combat to be the target, and then roll a d3. On a 3+, the target cannot use command abilities for the rest of the turn. So, you know, you've also got that rampage as well to really stop any sort of abilities being used. And then passive, Tranquility of the Abyss, ignore negative modifiers to control scores for Idoneth Deepkin units that are wholly within 12 inches of it. Pretty decent. I like this. I like both of them. Now, bear in mind, I haven't said the points. Let's have a little look at the points for these two. On to the app, Deepkin. So the aspect of the sea, which this is 350 points, and the aspect of the storm, which is the other one, is 330 points. So pretty decent. So, you know, you're paying a decent amount of points for them, but, you know, totally worth it. Okay, Volturus, the king, the high king. He's a war master, he's unique, and he's a hero, cavalry, and fly. He's pretty much probably the only real named character in this army. He's basically a named Achillean king. He has a 3-up save, a movement of 12, a health of 8, and a control of 2. He rides around on a really cool seahorse thing. So he has his really cool sword, which is 6 attacks, 2s followed by 3s, -2 rend, 2 damage, and +1 damage on the charge. Really nice. And then his mount has 4s, 4 attacks, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, -1 rend, 2 damage, companion. Now, the +1 battle formation would make that 3s and 3s, which is pretty decent. And this is why you see that's probably going to be your better formation. So he's the Supreme Lord of the Tides, so you can pick up to 3 other friendly Idoneth Deepkin units wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target, and then add 1 to the attack characteristics of the target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. That's pretty cool. And then, so you're going to be basically picking your eels for that one. And then first among Achilleans, add 1 to the hit rolls for combat attacks made by other friendly Achillean units while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So nice, plus another +1 to hit on your guys, which is pretty cool. It just kind of means that if those units that are going in with him are not going to need to worry about things like all-out attack, because they're going to get he's essentially given them all-out attack for free, basically, wholly within 12 of him, which is kind of nice. And then passive, so the High King Shield. So if this unit has a ward save of 3+ against mortal damage inflicted by spell abilities, prayer abilities, and abilities used by manifestations. A 3-up ward save against magic is mental. So yeah, that is really, really good. And he is going to be coming in at a whopping 270 points, which is quite nice. So next up is your standard Achillean King. This is your generic version. So that kit comes with 2 versions, Achillean King, or the name character. So an Achillean King is going to be 200 points. So you're going to be saving yourself 70 points just by bringing this version rather than him. Is it going to be worth it? Well, let's have a look. So he has a 3-up save, a movement of 12. He has a health of 7 rather than 8, and a control of 2. He has his royal weapons, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s, -1 rend, 2 damage, +1 damage on the charge, and then his mount is exactly the same. So, not too shabby. Now, bear in mind, you can give this guy that hero trait, so he can't be wounded on anything less than a 4+, and you can also give him the artifact, which means that you get the other stuff. What was it? Yeah, that companion, all weapon abilities can't be used against him, so that's pretty decent. So Wave Rider, if this unit charges this phase, pick one of the enemy unit within 1 inch to be the target, and then roll a 2d6. Oh, sorry, a d3, and on a 2 plus, inflict equal amounts of mortal damage onto the target, and add 1 to the rank characteristic of this unit's royal weapons for the attacks that target the enemy unit for the rest of the turn. So if you charge, roll a 2 plus, so you need a 3 plus on a d6, get +1 rend, and inflict that amount of mortal damage. That's quite nice. Any charge phase as well, so that means even if you counter charge as well. So reaction, you declare a fight ability for this unit. Pick a friendly hero, non-Achillean hero cavalry unit. So your Eels, that has not used a fight ability this turn. So you can then that unit can then be picked to use a fight ability immediately after this unit. So you kind of got that thing with like Chaos Lords do with the Chaos Warriors and the Chaos Knights. You kind of do that with your king and your Eels. Not bad for 200 points, and you could probably make quite a beastie unit. Again, that battle formation is going to help your mounts, and you've got various other stuff that's going to be able to +1 to wound in and stuff like that. Okay, so you got your Tidecaster. This model used to be an auto-include in every Deepkin army, and I've got a feeling she's probably still is. Now, Tidecaster's 150 points. She's a Wizard 1, and she has a 5-up save, movement of 6, health of 5, and a control of 2. She has a staff with 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 rend d3 damage, and she has a shark that has some bites of 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage. So she's Master of the Aether, and this is probably why you're going to bring her. So it's once per turn in your hero phase. Make an Ishran ritual roll on a d6. So this isn't a prayer or a spell or anything like this. This is just her ability. On a 3 plus, pick one of the following effects to apply until the start of your next turn. So friendly, you got creeping mists. So friendly Deepkin units cannot be targeted by shooting attacks unless the targeting model is within 12 inches of them. This is kind of cool because that used to be a battle trait for Deepkin armies, that you couldn't shoot a unit unless they were the closest unit or they were within 12 inches. So that's really cool that's kind of still there, but it's kind of tied in now with the Tidecaster. Then you got Surging Storm, so add +1 to run rolls and charge rolls for friendly Idoneth Deepkin units. Now, I'm just going to point this out, that doesn't have a range on it. So that's, for me, as I'm going to read this as raw, that's army-wide. So you just do that, and then all of your Idoneth Deepkin units are going to get +1 to your run and +1 to your charge rolls, period. Because there's no charger unit on that. There's no range. Unlike the other one, that is a range, does have a range on it, which is really good. So again, you're going to be probably bringing a Tidecaster into your army. And then Spiteful Riptide. Each time an enemy unit uses a retreat ability, after the effects of that ability has been resolved, inflict D3 mortal damage on that unit. So each time an enemy unit uses a retreat, so they're going to use a retreat ability, all right? They're going to be hit with the mortal wounds. And then after the effect of that ability is resolved, hit them with another D3 mortal wounds on top of that. Really strong. I would be bringing them mainly for the no shooting and the +1 to run and charges. If you do that +1 run and charge on turn 2, you're also getting to run and charge on turn 2, but you're getting +1 to the run and you're getting +1 to the charge rolls as well, which is super, super strong. Next up we have the Lotan, which is probably one of the coolest models in the entire range because it's an octopus with a knife and a cudgel, and he's basically going to knock your bag in. Really, really funny. So this guy comes in at Lotan. Where is he? Why is he not on there? 110 points, and he's a unique hero infantry. I always thought this guy was a wizard, but apparently he's not. He has a 5-up save, a 6 move, a 5 health, a control of 2. So basically, the elf doesn't do any fighting. It's the octopus that's doing fighting. And it has 8 attacks because it has 8 arms and a weapon in each one. Hits on 4s, wounds on 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage. And it's all companion attacks. So, again, your battle formation is going to be affecting this guy. So you add 3 to the control scores of friendly Idoneth Deepkin units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. That's okay. And then Font of Wisdom, add 1 to the casting rolls for friendly Isharan units while they're wholly within 12 inches of this unit. So basically, you're paying 110 points for him walking around giving +1 casting. So if you have basically the aspect of the Storm, which has +1 casting already, he's going to be walking around with this guy following him around with +2 casting. And then if you took the battle formation, if you really wanted to, you can then have this guy stood, because he's an Isharan unit, stood next to the aspect of the Storm, which is also an Isharan unit, and essentially pumping out +3 to your casting. You're almost casting on par with a Slan. Pretty cool. But would you really want to spend 110 points for a dude that's not really going to do much? Because let's be fair, the Octopus isn't really a major fighter. Cool as hell, but not really a major fighter. And is only really there for the +1 casting. Potentially, I would probably, if you had the spare 110 points, bring one for the casting, especially for your Tide casters and stuff in the backfield. But yeah, that's not too bad. I wouldn't really go into the battle formation for it. So next up, we got the Soul Scryer. This is the guy that used to do the whole pointy finger thing, and then you would deep strike in from there. And the Soul Scryer is 120 points. He's a wizard 1, 5 up save, movement of 6, health of 5, control of 2, and he has a shoal of fish with a 10-inch range, 8 attacks, 5s and 5s, no rend 1 damage, can shoot in combat, and is a companion attack. So he has Abyssal Touch, 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, no rend, D3 damage. The guy's not a lover, and he certainly isn't a fighter. So he still has some movement shenanigans. So in your movement phase, you can pick a friendly Idoneth Deepkin unit that is traveling through the Aether Sea, set that the target wholly within 12 inches of this unit, and more than 7 inches from all enemy units. So he's basically going to be a sort of vortex nexus, sort of an entry point for your army from him. So you're going to have multiple. Now, what you could do with your teleport spell is teleport this dude, because he's also a wizard, so he's probably going to be able to teleport himself, somewhere else, and then bring this unit in with him, which is kind of cool. Kind of good. And then you kind of have a hero there to do some stuff and whatever. So what you can do is also once per turn, army, use your hero, pick an enemy hero within 18 inches to be the target, roll the dice on a 3+, add 1 to the wound rolls for combat attacks targeted made by friendly Deepkin units that target that unit for the rest of the turn. So this is kind of what you got. If you've got a hero, so the way I look at this guy is if you've got, let's say, a tooled up unit of eels in the sea, all right, you could use your spell to cast yourself over the board, singling out a hero that you can get to. Okay, that's kind of in the fringes and in the backfield. That's kind of wandering around on an objective on his own. Jump in, target this guy from within 18 inches, and then bring in your friends in your movement phase. Because the good thing is they can be within 7 inches of an enemy unit. So you're going to have a 7-inch charge. If you do this on turn 2, you're getting, and you've got your Tide caster giving you +1 to your charge, you're now needing a 6 on that charge roll. All right? So you could really sort of get in there and get it. So if you look at battle tactics as well, so battle tactics say like attack on 2 fronts, where you have to take 2 objectives. You have to take an objective and then take an objective from an opponent. This could give you that ability to get into the backfield where it might not be as heavily defended and give you those options. So for 110 points, Soul Scryer can give you options of getting into certain areas that really might actually help you get those 4 points battle tactics. So well worth it. So there's a couple of tricks and shenanigans there that you can use with this guy. So I think for 110 points, he's definitely worth the points. Next up, we got the Soul Render, and the Soul Render is 140 points. Just to clarify, the Scryer is not 110, he's 120. So yeah, this guy is going to be all about your thralls. He's going to all be about your Namatari, your elves that have no eyes and no souls. So he's a hero. He has a 3-up save, which is pretty cool. He has a 6 movement, 5 health, control of 2. He has a Tulan hook, so 4 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 rend 2 damage. And then he has a Rakenrad's serrated blade, 3s, 4s, 4s, -1 rend 1 damage. I like this. I like this a lot. So he has Lure Light. So this is obviously an ability that works with some of your battle formations, but, you know. Pick up 3 different friendly Namarati units wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. You cannot pick the same unit to be the target of this ability more than once per turn. Make a low light roll on a D3. On a 2+, so basically roll a D6 dice and then 3+, return a number of slain models equal to the roll. So, if you roll a D6 dice and you roll a 5 or a 6, you're bringing back 5 or 6. You're not really bringing back 5 or 6 models. You're bringing back either 2 or 3 models. I know, I got all excited there. It would have been really good if it was 5 or 6. If it was 5 or 6, he would be amazing. If you're going to go Thrall heavy and Reaver heavy, so these are the guys, your infantry, your basic infantry guys, you're going to want to have at least a couple of Soul Renders in there, because to be able to bring back models at the end of your turn, at the end of any turn, even your opponent's turn, is really, really quite good. And hopefully they're relatively cheap, and you'll be able to have units of 20, 20 Thralls, units of 20 Reavers, which would be quite good. So you have a once per battle, any combat phase. Pick an enemy hero in combat to be the target, roll a 2d6. If the roll exceeds the target's health characteristic, is automatically destroyed. That is absolutely bonkers. So, like, most foot heroes are going to have maybe 5 or 6 health. Your average roll on a 2d6 is a 7. So there is a good chance that you are going to be able to go up to a hero and just go, how many health have you got? I've got 6. Boom, I've just rolled a 7 off the board. He's dead. That is really, really good. And for 140 points, you can just assassinate models like that. That's amazeballs. Yeah, really like this guy. It's a beautiful model as well, and there's some really nice alternatives if you can get hold of the Warcry sculpts. Next up, we have the Thrall Master. This guy is the newest of the heroes for the Deepkin, and he's all about the Thralls. He is literally just about buffing Thralls. So he has a 5-up save, he moves 6, he has a health of 5, a control of 2. He has his exotic weapons, which are 5 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 and 2 damage. And then he has his little eel thing with snappy bites. 2 attacks, 4s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage. So any combat phase, pick one of the following effects to apply to this unit and any friendly Namarati units wholly within 12 inches of this unit for the rest of the turn. So, Wear the Riptide, those units have melee weapons, crit 2 hits. Okay. And then Wear the Vortex, subtract 1 from the wound rolls for targets that target those units. So you can either go offensive or defensive. Kind of cool. And then, as you can imagine, if he's obviously fights and he's within a certain range of Thralls, they're immediately going to be able to fight. So, reaction, you declare the fight ability with this unit. Pick a friendly Namarati's Thrall unit that has not used a fight ability this turn and is within combat range of this target. The target can use a fight ability immediately after this unit fights. There's no positives or bonuses to any of the dice rolls or anything like that. This guy fights, the unit of Thralls are immediately going to get to fight. And he is going to come in at a whopping 130 points. Again, if you're going to go a lot of Thrall heavy, you're going to be bringing one of these, and you're going to be bringing a couple of Soul Renders. Okay, next up we have the Achillean Alopex. Basically, it's a shark. It's a big-ass shark, and it comes in at 190 points for 1. They used to come in units, but sadly, they're only in 1s now. So it's a cavalry, it flies. It's a big shark with 2 dudes stood on the back. It has a 4-up save, movement 12, health of 8, and a control of 2. And you used to see armies of these things, just like 9 of them in an army with a turtle, which is really kind of cool. Basically, it's got a razor shell harpoon. So basically, you either have a razor shell harpoon or you have a netter. So it's really on how you want to do this. You can either go anti-monster or anti-cavalry. Personally, I would probably go anti-cavalry. You don't really lose anything. You're just basically picking the keyword because both weapons are exactly the same. But I would probably go anti-cavalry because there's probably going to be more cavalry units in the game than there is going to be monsters going forward. So 18-inch range for both. They both have 2 attacks. They both hit on 3s. They both wound on 2s. They both have 1 rend. They both do 3 damage. But one's anti-monster, one's anti-cavalry. So that's your choice of what you're going to be going with. So the guys on it have hooks and blades, which 4 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage. And then the sharks themselves have 3 attacks, 4s and 2s. Again, the battle formation can bring that down to 3. 2 rend, 2 damage, anti-monster, +1 rend. Alright, so it's pretty cool. Then they have a number of abilities. So they got passive. Add 1 to the attack characteristics of this unit's Alapex Furious Bites while it is within 6 inches of any damaged enemy unit, or while it is within 6 inches of any enemy units that have had models slain in the same turn. So basically, essentially, you get +1 attacks with your shark bites if you're near a damaged unit or a unit that's lost models. Kind of because it's a shark, it's kind of going to get excited because of the smell of blood. Then in your shooting phase, pick an enemy monster or cavalry unit that has had any damage points allocated to it this turn, and use the shooting attacks to be the target. On a 3+, until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the number of dice rolled when making charges to a minimum of 1. So -1 dice. Alright, so you roll 2 dice to charge, you're down to 1 dice. Super cool. And I believe that, yeah, it's a monster or cavalry unit. That's really, really good. Nice. I like them. They're relatively like 190 points. I'd probably have 1 or 2 of them in an army if I did them. They're quite fast as well, and they're pretty tasty for being able to shut down cavalry and monster units. Yeah, and they're reasonably good in combat. So yeah, I would definitely think about having a couple of them. Next up, we have the Morasar Guard. This is the first unit of eels, your eel cavalry. They're 170 points for 3 models. So, cavalry unit obviously has all of the command that can come with them. They have a 4-up save, a movement of 14, a health of 4 each, pretty decent, and a control of 1. They have spears, so 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage. Anti-infantry +1 rend, nice, and +1 damage on the charge. So if you're going into a infantry unit, you're going to be rend 2, and you've charged, you're going to be damage 2. You only got 2 attacks each though, so it's not too bad. The eels have got 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 rend, d3 damage, not bad. And then you have any charge phase. If this unit charges this phase, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of it to be the target, then roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in this unit. For every 4 or 5, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target. For each 6, inflict d3 mortal damage on the target. Add 1 to the roll if there are more models in the target unit than this unit. Most cases, you're probably going to find that you are, unless you've gone for like a unit of 10 and you've gone into a unit of 10, so you equal it out. So hopefully you can do some damage and kill some models in your charge phase, in your hero phase before, and in your shooting phase before you get to them, so that you can get more. Well, actually, no, it'd be the other way around. You need less models than that unit. Just take units of 5 if that's what you really want to. I wouldn't though. I wouldn't. So next up, you got Ishlan Garn, which is the other version, and these are 180 points for 3. Again, they're a cavalry unit, and I love this colour scheme on them because when everyone tells me that they're not dark elves in fantasy, there you go. So they've got a 4-up save. They move 14, 4 health, 1 control. They've got the sabers, 3 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage, anti-infantry +1 rend, and then they've got their fangs on their eels, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 rend, d3 damage. So they've got any combat phase. Pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a dice on a 3+, subtract 1 from the attack characteristics of the unit's target unit's weapons for the rest of the turn. So -1 attack, pretty good. And then they've got the shields. This unit has a 5-up ward if it charged this turn. So they're more defensive eels. I quite like them, pretty good. They're 180 points, not too bad. Relatively cheap compared to some cavalry units. Next up, the turtle. The turtle is 500 points. And it's basically got a 5-up ward save because it's awesome. It's a 3-up save. It moves 10. It has 16 health and a control of 5. It has a harpoon launcher, so 18-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 2s, a -1 rend, 3 damage, anti-monster +1 rend. It has its Leviathan claws and crushing jaws, which does drop from 7 attacks to 5 attacks if you have 10 or more wounds. Hits on a 4s, wounds on a 2, 2 rend, 3 damage, crit mortals, and it's a companion attack. So again, your battle formation is going to fix that. And then you've got the crew. I've got spears and harpoons, 4 attacks, 3s followed by 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage. So it's got passive. So you've got the void drums. So friendly Idoneth Deepkin units have a 5-up ward while they're wholly within 6 inches of this unit. Nice. And then once per turn, any charge phase, if this unit charged this phase, pick an enemy infantry unit within 1 inch to be the target. Roll a dice and add 1 to the roll if the target unit has more than 10 models. On a 3+, inflict the amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll. Nice. So you're rolling a dice. So basically, you could have inflict. It's not a D3, it's a D6. So you're essentially rolling, potentially getting a getting 6 mortal damage. Now, I would say that if you rolled a 6, a natural 6, and the unit has more than 10 models and it's +1 to the roll, it does say that inflict equal to the roll. So if you get a 7, that you would inflict 7 mortal damage. I'm sure somebody would probably argue with that, but yeah, it's pretty basic. It's a giant turtle that is basically going to fly beneath you. So your Namarati Reavers, your infantry units, and there is not many, so there's only 2 basically. There's these guys at 130 points for 10. They are a ranged unit, not a close combat unit. But they do have close combat attacks, but they're mainly a ranged unit. So they have 5-up save, they movement of 7, which is pretty fast, 1 health, 1 control. They got the Whisper Bows with a 12-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s and 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage, crit auto wounding. They're not sentinels, but they're okay. They've got Keening Blades, so they've got 1 attack each, 3s and 4s, no rend, 1 damage. And then they've got passive abilities. So if this unit can shoot abilities, even if it run or retreat ability the same turn. So you run and shoot. Great. Which allows you to get a little bit closer to get those 12-inch range shots in. And if they get too close, you can always retreat out of combat and hope, well, you're going to take some damage. But you can still retreat and then pop off your bows as well. So not bad for 130 points. You're probably going to be bringing them if you want to go Thrall heavy. Next up, we have the Thralls, which are 120 points for 10 models. Infantry, so 5-up save, movement of 6, health of 1, control of 1. They've got their blades, which 2 attacks each, 3s and 4s, -1 rend, 1 damage. Anti-infantry +1 rend, which is quite nice. And then sweeping blows. Add 1 to the damage characteristics to this unit's Laminari for attacks that target enemy monsters. +1 damage against monsters and +1 rend against infantry. Pretty sweet. And obviously you've got your buffs where you can bring models back with your soul renders, and you have your Thrall Master is going to basically be able to buff you as well and make you a little bit more defensive. They're not amazing. I would personally bring them in units of 20 because, 120 points, 240 points for a unit of 20. Not bad. They're probably going to be able to stay around a little bit, especially with your soul scryers. Popping their abilities off and bringing them back at the end of your turn. Yeah, it's not too bad. Now we have your faction terrain, your Gloomtide Shipwreck. So it has a save of 4, a health of 7, cover, impassable, and obscuring. Now it does come in 2 bits. You can have 1 really big boat, or you can have 2 separate pieces. So it does have Rise from the Depths. Set this faction terrain up either as 1 terrain feature consisting of 2 scenery pieces that must be set up within 3 inches of each other, or as 2 separate terrain features, set up each terrain feature wholly within friendly territory and more than 3 inches from all objectives and other terrain territory. After you have done so, if it has been deployed, if this faction terrain setup is set up as a 1 terrain feature consisting of 2 pieces, it has a health characteristic of 14 instead of 7. I thought I was going to get really excited then and say if you set it up as 1, you get an additional 1 to set up. Because there are people probably out there from previous editions of the game with multiple of these things, because you used to be able to bring like 2 of them. So you'd have 4 pieces of it on the battlefield. But that seems to have gone. So if you're So basically what it does is add 1 to the save rolls for friendly Idoneth Deepkin infantry and cavalry units while they're wholly within 6 inches of the terrain feature. So this is probably why you're going to break it down into 2 pieces rather than have one big one. Although it is pretty sizable. It is a pretty big, chunky boat. Alright? But yeah, it's free faction terrain. It can be killed, probably will be killed. So just bear that in mind. So that's the Deepkin. Pretty good. I quite like them. There's some really good, cool stuff you can do in there. I like the magic tricks that you've potentially got. You're probably going to go a lot of eels, lots of turtles, and the Keelian King, which can just be turned into an absolute tanking beast. Your infantry, your thralls, and your reavers are not great, and that's why I'm hoping that in future updates that they get like a heavy infantry unit, like crabmen would be really cool and really awesome to see, because they are kind of lacking that heavy beat stick of an infantry unit. If you look at the Lumineth Realm Lords, they have things like the Stone Guard, the Blade Lords, they've now got the River Dancers and stuff like that. The Lumineth Realm Lords really do need, but again, a lot of the older 2nd edition, 1st edition factions really do need that extra love. Lumineth Realm Lords got far too much very, very quickly, but then that's because Phil Kelly loves them. So yeah, they're really, really cool. I like them. They're a really cool army, some beautiful models, a lot of fun stuff. Biggest thing that you're going to find with this army is the flight stands for the eels and the turtle are an absolute pain in the arse. So if you do use them, brass rod it or pin them in place. And you can do a lot of cool stuff with water effect and cotton wool and make some really cool water effect bases. So you can have a really cool looking army. But that is the video. If you like what I do, please subscribe, like, comment, share, do all of that stuff, and check out my members and Patreon areas, and I'll be back in the next one. See you later, peeps. Bye-bye for now.